Hi there YouTube, Big G back again with another video, and a video response this time to Novabug, who has a channel also on YouTube, also with vintage and retro gaming. Now he has a Friday Foursome, or what he calls a Friday Foursome, and basically he poses a question to us fellow YouTubers out there, and we post video responses to that question. So it's all part of the community and just a little bit of fun to be had, and on different topics for video game collecting or vintage gaming or retro gaming or anything of that sort of ilk. So just some background. Novabug has a great channel. I often watch his videos, and I have watched them for a long time. But he focuses on the Amstrad machines, whether the CPC 464 or the GX 4000 machines, on his channel. And this time his Friday Foursome question that he put out there to the community basically is, from what I understand and from listening to his videos, the question he posed was, the machine that you owned back in the day, whether computer or console, if you had to swap it for something else of the same sort of, from the same sort of genre, what would that be, and what are the reasons behind it? So I watched Tony from Electric Adventures. I watched his video response to the Friday Foursome question put out there, and I found that interesting, and I went back and I watched Novabugs. I'll put a link down below to Novabugs down at the bottom in the comment section. So I thought it was interesting, so I sort of cast back my memory, and the first machine that I owned back in the day, there's actually two machines that I owned sort of at similar time, but first was the Spectrum 48K. Now this is a classic machine. It has it really got gives me a warm and fuzzy feeling when I mess around with the old Specky 48K, because it just is such a likable machine. Its form factor, the rubber keyboard, its crap sound that it has, but the awesome games library that it has. So this is the machine that I owned from back in the day. So if I was forced to swap this for another 8-bit computer that was popular back then, the one that I would swap it for was a machine I would love to have owned back in the day. And that comes from another range of computers which I really enjoy, and that's from the Ataris. So I would have loved to have owned an Atari 800XL. Okay, this is a 600XL, although it has been upgraded to 64K of memory. But what I liked about the Atari, it just had that great keyboard, well built, modern looking, definitely more modern looking than what the Spectrum was. And then of course the games were great as well, great sound. I mean, I used to play on my brother-in-law's machine because he had the 600XL, River Raid. I mean, what an awesome version of River Raid. First time I ever played River Raid was on that machine. And there were very few games on the Spectrum that actually lived up to the experience of playing River Raid on this classic machine here. So I would definitely have gone for one of the Ataris, and most probably the 800XL. Then the other machine that I owned from back in the day, and it was sort of at the same time that I owned the Spectrum, and that was the Spectra Video 328. Now, there were a couple of us, myself and my mates, that owned the Spectra Videos, 328s or 318. I first experienced a 318 at a friend's house, the rubber key with a little joystick on the side there, and I thought it was fantastic. I mean, you just typed in play, and and you could just play songs and type in little basic programs, and that I thought it was brilliant. So when I had the opportunity to buy a computer for, I think it was for my birthday, I told my mom I wanted a Spectra Video 328, and it was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Downside of the 328 was its software library. I mean, it didn't really have a lot of options available. You basically had type-ins and a couple of games that you had. So yeah, you were sort of very jealous of your mates who had Commodore 64s, had a huge software library. But these were well-built machines, had great sound, and I attempted to learn machine code programming on this machine as well. I mean, there was a South African author that brought out a book, The Magic of the Spectra Video. There's been some talk on Facebook about it now recently. I tried to learn machine code programming with it. Didn't do too well. I learned hexadecimal, some binary, I learned a little bit of mapping, and I typed in a couple of the programs, and then school holidays was up, and I put it aside and just played games. Now, if I had to swap this machine, and this is by far my favorite 8-bit machine from back in the day. If I had to swap it, it's a bit of a cheat, but I would have gone for the the successor to the Spectra Video, or what the Spectra Video forerunner to it, to the MSX. I would have gone for one of the MSX machines. I like the look of the MSXs. They've always got nice colors. They're solidly built. Now this is a Toshiba, popular overseas. Quite a few of them. I see them in the UK and Europe and so forth. South Africa, never saw an MSX machine in South Africa. I did see, and I did pick up a Spectra Video 728, which is basically a MSX machine as well. But I would love to have had one of these from back in the day, or owned one of these. Why? It's basically a Spectra Video, but with a software library and some great games. I mean, the Japanese were behind the MSX machines, and there was a whole plethora of them. Sony's, Toshibas, Canons, Panasonics, and so forth. And some of those machines that were upgraded, your MSX2s and your turbos and so forth, absolutely out of this world. I saw them in magazines and used to salivate looking at these things and dying to own one of them. So definitely one of the MSX machines. That's what I would have gone for from back in the day. When it comes to consoles, I never owned a console until I was out of school a couple of years, and I had one of those Famicons that were popular here in South Africa. Basically an 8-bit Famicom, which is the Japanese version of the Nintendo NES, but it was the South African branded version that we used to buy from Reggie's, and that was a great machine. I enjoyed it. It had a great gamepad, great games on it, but that was in later years. And if I think back now, I love my shooters, so I think I would have also have loved to have owned a TurboGrafx or PC Engine or something in that sort of line, which was just unheard of. I've never even seen one here in South Africa. But the shooters and the games look absolutely brilliant on it. And you know, I watch Bithead 1000's channel, and he often mentions, and he often plays a lot of those PC Engine or TurboGrafx games from back then, especially those shooters. Love those shooters. So guys, that's my response to the Friday Foursome question. Machine that you had back in the day, if you had to swap it, what would you swap it for? So, you know, I own 2 computers from back in the day. The Spectrum, I would have gone for an Atari 8-bit, and my Spectra Video, I would have gone for one of the MSXs. And console-wise, this would be a TurboGrafx or a PC Engine with all the shooters. So just a bit of fun, you know. Also join in with the Friday Foursome. Post your own VR response to Novabug, and let him know on his Facebook page that you've done so. Okay guys, cheers from me, and remember, keep it retro.